While I find that Photoshop's curvature pen tool is excellent for creating shapes, when I need the most amount of control, say for example if I'm trying to cut out an object from the background or make a really complex shape or maybe make a vector mask, then I'm going to switch to the traditional pen tool. I'll click and hold and choose it from the pen tools. Then I will right-click on the icon for the tool and just reset the tool. I'm going to zoom in using Command plus twice and then hold down the space bar in order to reposition this canvas area here. So when you first click with the pen tool, you'll get what's called an anchor point. And then if you click again, you'll get a line segment in between them. Now, as we start dragging curved points, we'll also get direction lines, as you can see here by the lighter gray areas, as well as direction points. All right, I'm going to use Command 0 to zoom out to fit in window. And let's take a look at the first path we're going to draw, which is just the straight path. I might go ahead and zoom in maybe twice again, hold down the space bar, and then reposition this so it's a little bit larger. So with the pen tool selected, I will click in the middle of that black square to set down my first point. I'll click again to set down my second point, and now we have a direction line. We can tell the second point is active because it's filled with blue. I'll click again in order to set down the third point, and again for the fourth point. Now, if you make a mistake, you can just tap the delete key, and that will delete the most recently created point. Once you tap delete once, though, you should notice that all of the points on the curve are selected. So if I tap delete again, they will all be deleted. So let's do that again. I'll just click once, click again, one more time, and I'm done. Now, if I want to modify this path, I need to select either the Path Selection tool or the Direct Selection tool. So the Path Selection tool will select the entire path. I can click and reposition that. I'll use Command Z to undo that. If I want to modify a segment of the path, then I need to choose the Direct Selection tool. Now I can click on a specific point. You'll notice when I did that, the other points became unselected. And now I can either drag an anchor point or I can drag a direction line. I'll go ahead and use Command Z once and then twice to undo that, and tap the P key to select the pen tool. Now, if you don't want to continuously go back and forth between those two tools, you can hold down the Command key and you'll notice that what I get is the Direct Select tool because that's the tool that I had last selected. So now I can go in and reposition this, holding down the Command key, and when I release the Command key, I'm returned to the pen tool. Once I've created a path, I have what's called a work path in my paths panel. I can click off the path, it disappears from view in the canvas area, and click on it again in order to view it. However, if I click off the path and then I start drawing another anchor point, this work path will disappear. So if you want to save it, just double click on it and give it a name. To create the next path, I will click off of Path 1 in the Paths panel, use the space bar, and then scoot over to the path that looks like a triangle. I'll start in the lower left, click once, click twice, click again, and when I position my cursor over the starting point, it changes. I get the little 0 that tells me that I'm going to close the path. Now, with the pen tool, I can click anywhere on the path in order to add a point. But unlike the curvature pen tool, I can't position or reposition that point. If I click again, it'll just delete the point. So I'll add a point here, and then instead of having to switch tools, I'll hold down the Command key on Mac or the Control key on Windows and just drag in order to reposition that path. Positioning the cursor over the anchor point gives me the pen with the minus, so if I click, it would delete that point. All right. I've got another work path that we can see in the Paths panel. In order to save that, I'll double click on it, click OK, and now I have two paths. So there's a number of different things we can do once we've created a path. For example, in the options bar, you can see that I can turn that path into a selection, in which case I can add a feather, which would soften the edges. And if I had another path selected, I could choose whether I wanted to add, subtract, or intersect with that selection. For now, I'll click Cancel. I could also turn this into a vector mask by clicking on the mask icon, and I can turn it into a shape. There are additional options available from the Paths flyout menu. So for example, I could duplicate the path, or I could fill the path or stroke the path. If the path is difficult to see, with the pen tool selected, click on the gear icon and you can increase the thickness as well as change the color of the path. All right, at this point, I'll choose File, Save As. I'll append it with an _01, saving it into the same folder as a Photoshop document because I want to save the paths, and click Save. So there you go, a quick overview of how to draw straight paths in Photoshop.